allowed 5 minutes. If someone's speaking for a group, 10 minutes will be allowed. And it needs to be about subjects that this group can do anything about. First will be Paul Davidson.
Good evening. My name is Paul Davidson. First of all, let me say thanks to those for your public service and congratulations on your election wins. What I'm concerned about tonight really isn't news to anyone. I am officially upset over codes enforcement. Why does an antique vehicle in pristine condition have to be tagged with current plates? The state of Missouri doesn't require a vehicle not being used on private property to be tagged. A car that's on cinder blocks or in poor condition, I understand, is a violation. We have these rules in place for a reason. Why do homeowners have to suffer, yet rental properties owned by Lada or Benchmark continue to have trash in the yard or mowed over litter? If the yard is mowed, are empty houses not eligible to receive codes violations? Why is someone who cares about their home penalized and another house not in violation? I went to visit with one of my neighbors, and it was brought to my attention they received a letter from the city stating they were in violation with their recreational trailer. On one day it was parked on grass and not on concrete. They corrected it by parking it on the concrete square they had been parking on for years. They understand why there is a rule in place. However, they told me specifically the city was going to prosecute them. They told me specifically that they didn't want me to identify them tonight because, in their words, I'm afraid making City Hall mad. I don't want them to be vengeful with more violations. Let's say this may sound extreme, but mind you, this is not an uncommon vibe. These neighbors have been Raytown homeowners for over 60 years, and their property, I assure you, is in clean and sharp condition. I think it's pretty apparent that codes enforcement needs some revision and change in operations. It comes down to lack of better judgment and understanding in many cases. The fact that there's no 24 animal control alone is discouraging. It is difficult for me to like this community when a city operation doesn't work well. This is an example of what brings and keeps residents to Raytown and should be attended to accordingly. Thank you.
Could you also give us your address? I'm sorry.
So, my address, 9505 East 65th. Thank you.
I'm here representing the Park Board. I'm Vice
Mr.
President
Mayor.
of the Park Board.
Probably wait till we get into that resolution.
If it's
Okay,
appropriate.
I'm sorry. I thought you had public comment. Yes, if you wait for the resolution, I appreciate it.
Excuse me, there won't be a public hearing. So yes, it's okay. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Copeland. Yeah, I'm sorry for the confusion. Go ahead. Go ahead. We're not having a public hearing on that, so go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about the confusion.
Sorry about that.
Okay, well, again, my name is Terry Copeland. I'm the Vice President of the Raytown Park Board. Our chair, our president, is out of town tonight. That's why I'm representing the Park Board. One of the agenda items has to do with our budget, and I wanted to discuss that with you a little bit. It comes as a surprise. First we'd heard about this issue was May 1st when it appeared on the agenda for this board's review. By way of a little timeline, most of the Park Board's time since I've been on the Park Board in the last 3 years has been dedicated to Super Splash and the issues that we have with declining attendance and revenues from Super Splash, and how are we going to fix that. Over those years, we've had special committees, and some of the aldermen here have served on special Super Splash committees trying to come up with ways to make it more profitable. As we prepared for this budget year, it became increasingly apparent that if we continued the way we have in the past, that it basically was eating our lunch. Like I said, I've been on the park board right about 3 years. When I first came on, I was given a spreadsheet that showed what our revenues were and how much was in our general fund. And as I recall, it was like 1.2 million. And as we prepared for this year's budget, the projected general fund, based upon if we kept losing on Super Splash like we have been, it was down to $90,000. Oh my God. 1.2 million, and 3 years later it's $90,000. In that time frame, we've had one capital expense. We bought the property next to Carnegie for $50,000. The rest of it's come on losses with Super Splash. Therefore, we made that decision, and it wasn't easily done. After that decision was made, we were approached by the then mayor and several aldermen. What can we do? This is the crown jewel of our park system, all of which we knew. But what can we do to keep it open and buy some time and try to figure out yet another way to save Super Splash? The decision was made in October, early October, if we could share the expense of projected losses for this year while we did a study to lay out a strategic plan for the total park system, not just Super Splash. Super Splash was included in it. If the city coffers would help us with half of that, which was $80,000, then we could budget $80,000 from the Parks Department to cover it, and we go in as partners. This resolution that's before us today offers ways to do it. Unfortunately, the staff has recommended that we, basically the city side of it isn't going to happen, shouldn't happen, and take the money all out of the Parks Department's general fund. So in essence, we're back to where we were in September. We're taking the full loss. And so I would recommend that the Board of Aldermen allocate the monies, their $80,000 as it was agreed upon by the prior Board of Aldermen, that $80,000 from your general capital funds, and we can still continue obviously to do our $80,000 as was agreed back in October, as was our budget, by the way, was voted on. That change was voted on by the members of this group, and it passed overwhelmingly with, I think, one dissenter. So that's what I have to say on the issue. I have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Thank you.
I have nothing to communicate at this time. I'm still working on the liaison positions and committee positions. I'll have those done before the recommendations done before the next meeting. Communication from City Administrator.
Good evening, Mayor McDonough, Board of Aldermen. Even though it was mentioned earlier this evening, I will go ahead and talk about Raytown Mayor's Prayer Breakfast scheduled for this Thursday on May 7th, 2015, from 7 to 8:15 a.m. Location is First Baptist Church on 10,500 350 Highway. The speaker is Mayor Mike McDonough and Dan Mears, author and mascot for the Kansas City Chief. Also in this forum, I would like to inform regarding a community blood center. Is the primary suppliers of blood for local hospital and has been serving in Missouri and Kansas hospital for more than 50 years. Community Blood Center needs to collect 580 pints of blood every day and over 140,000 pints annually to meet the needs for our local hospital. An individual within the area that community center serves needs a blood transfusion every 4 minutes. Please share your gift of life with local hospital patients who need it by donating at the next Community Blood Center blood drive. The blood drive will be held at Raytown EMS Wednesday, May 27th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. The drive will be located at 10,020 East 66th Terrace in the training room. You can make an appointment online or you can call EMS at 737-6030. And the reason I announced that thing because there has been folks who heard this announcement and were able to donate the blood. It's also, as more information we put out, for example, the first time we put a lost puppy on our Facebook, it was within hours that the people contacted us and found the owner. So it's just getting information out. Mayor McDonough, myself, and a couple other staff and elected official attended a ribbon-cutting ceremony today at Hertz Rent-A-Car, located on 9501 East 350 Highway. I would also like to let you know that there is an upcoming ribbon-cutting ceremony Thursday, May 14th, from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m., ceremony at 5 p.m., for Newsroom Cafe located at 6020 Blue Ridge Boulevard. And I think Alderman Mark might cover this one, but there is a Raytown Council on Aging Senior Expo coming on May 7th, 9 to 12 p.m., right here at Raytown City Hall. Another announcement regarding the next meeting of First Suburb Coalition is Friday, May 15th at 8 a.m. at the Roland Park Community Center, located at 4850 Rosewood Drive, Roland Park, Kansas. And you need to RSVP for that event. Tonight you have a couple of study sessions, and if there is any question or concern, I will be happy to respond to those after the study session is completed. With that, Mayor, I will conclude the report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh. Are there any committee reports this evening? Mr. Mott?
Yeah, first off, I'd like to apologize to Mr. Copeland and to the mayor and the board here for jumping the gun on the public comment. Second off is, like Mr. Sharma had mentioned, May 7th will be the Senior Expo here in City Hall from 9 to 12 o'clock. I'd like to invite all the board, if you could possibly make it. They'd love to see you there, and Council on the Aging would appreciate it. That's it. Thanks.
Mr. Van Buskirk?
Nothing this evening.
Anyone else? All right, we'll now move into the study session. I believe the first one up is the audit presentation.
Correct. Annually, the city is required to conduct an independent audit of our financial reports and also our processes. We have contracted with Cochran, Head and Vick to complete that audit, and they have presented it to us and wanted to present to you this evening. Michael Keenan was our lead auditor, and he's with Cochran, Head and Vick, and I'll turn it over to him.
Good afternoon, or I guess it's good evening now, Mayor and the members of the Board of Aldermen. My name is Michael Keenan. I'm the manager with the firm of Cochran, Head and Vick to report the results of the financial and compliance audit for the City of Raytown for the fiscal year ended October 31, 2014. I believe we had some technical difficulties on our PowerPoint, so I believe everyone has been provided that handout. As well as last Thursday, you were provided 3 documents. The larger document was the audited financial statements. Also, single audit report on compliance with federal expenditures, and also a required communications and management letter. So if we open up to, on page 2, a little bit about CHV. We've been serving Missouri and Kansas since 1975. Our peer review report, we also somewhat get audited in that they review our quality control procedures, an outside firm. We've been awarded the highest rating given as a result of that review, and we're members of a number of professional organizations. And we also showed some pictures of the engagement team that was out here performing the engagement. On page 3, the scope of the audit. We were engaged to perform an audit of the city's basic financial statements and the city's compliance over expenditures of federal awards, also known as the single audit. Our responsibilities is to conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, governmental auditing standards, as well as Office and Budget Management A133, which rules the single audit compliance requirements. Our responsibilities are to plan and perform our audit to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance that the basic financial statements are free of material misstatement. Also to report on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance with laws and regulations. The Auditing Standards Board of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, who govern how we conduct our audits, recommends that we communicate these matters to the governing board. Legal acts, none came to our attention as a result of performing our audit procedures. Changes in significant accounting policies, there were no new accounting policies that were adopted in 2014. I'm pleased to report we had no difficulties or disagreements with management, and we had full access and cooperation to the books and records. Financial and compliant audit addresses 3 basic questions. Question 1, are the financial statements free of material misstatement? Our answer is yes. We have issued an unmodified opinion that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. Sometimes that's referred to as a clean opinion. Our internal controls over financial reporting adequately designed and operating effectively. Again, we identified certain deficiencies related to internal controls over financial reporting that we considered to be material weaknesses. And a material weakness is defined as a deficiency or deficiencies that result in material misstatement could happen to the financial statements that would not be detected, reasonably detected in a timely manner to record those misstatements. As a part of our audit process, we had a number of material entries that we proposed to the city and to management. They concurred with those entries, and those have been posted to the financial statements. Did the city of Raytown comply in all material respects with finance-related laws and regulation? Again, in our opinion, the city did comply in all material respects with finance-related laws and regulations. Other management letter comments and suggestions for improvements in internal control mention the continued improvement and development of a comprehensive accounting manual, and also there's a couple new GASB financial reporting statements that will affect the city in future years. Now, those were all addressed and reported in the required communications, and management has given their response as well as their action plan to address those. If I could entertain any questions, I would sort of try to answer them.
Ms. Emerson?
Yeah. Looking over all of this, and I understand that we have been without a finance director, and I'm certainly glad that Mark is back because I think he did a marvelous job before. But I saw 10 major adjustments that were made, and I'm concerned that the accurate reporting could impact the city's federal award funding. Can you explain that for us?
Okay, the number of adjustments and the amounts that we're talking about were financial statement related adjustments that primarily relate to year-end, closing out the books and records. The largest one you saw was the trust statements, which relates to your sewer bonds and the TIF bonds. Again, all the deposits were made into those accounts. They just weren't recorded correctly as far as debt service, principal and interest, and those on the financial statements. So as far as those effect on the single audit, we did not see any impact that those types of misstatements and corrections had on the single audit.
Well, you had said that it could impact, and that's why I
I
was...
said it could. We have to identify those deficiencies and report those to the governing board.
Okay.
And I think, you know, we've had, as you know, there's been a number of vacancies over the years that have just have made challenges to make it where they're doing that. As far as the year-end financial reporting, I can say, as far as the day-to-day activities of paying people salaries, wages, obligations, I believe that's being done. It's more of the bigger items, year-end type adjustments that, again, need some attention.
Okay. And then you also recommended the accounting manual and the comprehensive accounting manual. And are we going to work on that this year, Mark?
Actually, I think if you see our response in there, in the letter, it's something that we've been working on for several years. And while it may never be considered comprehensive just because of all the different pronouncements that come down from GASB, it is something that we are working on. We've made quite a bit of improvement actually on it. We have multiple areas in our department that sewer, county taxation, payroll and whatnot, and we are working on all those right now. And again, for a better part of last year, we've had only one accountant in that area, and so that it makes it a challenge, but she has done a wonderful job of trying to progress towards that, and we actually are in discussion now with an outside agency to come in and assist us with getting those completed.
We saw that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this may be a question more geared to city staff, because I doubt you have the answer off the top of your head, but at some point I'd like to have it. On the TIF fund here, it speaks to the effect of the debt payment schedule and how it increases towards this. Again, I don't think you have the information on top of your head, but I would like to have maybe some information on, at some point, what that schedule looks like in terms of how much we're going to be on the hook for in future years as that progresses through, that being paid down. And when I went through this stuff last Friday, I kind of just wanted to get a clearer picture in my head in regards to that.
Okay, so what you're looking for is like a comprehensive debt schedule?
Yeah.
And I think some of that information is included in there.
On page 42 is the scheduled debt service requirements for that particular bond issuance, the TIF. Is that what you're... It's the first column, tax increment and sales revenue bonds.
You said page 42, correct? Okay.
Correct.
I was looking at 37. 42 on my screen was different.
I know that's a fairly
Well,
condensed.
that's, yeah, the PDF.
So we have it up to, okay, I see what you're saying. So we have it up to 2019, then it goes through the actual,
Yeah.
I guess, terms here.
Yeah, and that's a fairly condensed schedule. I'd be more than happy to provide you with the complete one that shows the payments all the way out. And maybe even more importantly, maybe some of our revenue forecasts, so that you can see.
And that was going to be
Because
my
the
follow-up.
payments, yeah, the payments are the payments. The issue becomes at what point is a concern for revenue covering those payments.
And you just, my follow-up point was going to be that in the regard, just in terms of, you're trying to forecast, again, what we're on the hook, what is that eating out,
Sure.
of our budget? But,
Yeah, I'd be happy to put that together for you. It's something I've
Well,
already been
we'll-
looking at. So, and I have it, actually, when the Standard & Poor's did our rating, that's one of the things we had to go over with them as well. So I have it. I can get that for you.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Beck.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Of course, that chart you're talking about on page 42 extends all the way out to 2032. Is that correct? So, and the variation, of course, there is going to be, a lot of it has to do with tax revenue relative to that particular TIF, and to pay off the TIF bonds, which is going to vary year to year, and depending on the economy and how well things do, that could improve, and so that could change as time goes on, but it's just going to be a projected, possibly where this may go. I do have some questions regarding some along the line of Janet's, relative to some of the difficulties, delays, misstatements, adjustments, and weaknesses. And did you feel the response and correction as far as action plan is sufficient, that the city has stated that they're going to? What are your feelings?
Yeah, I believe that's a viable action plan, is to search outside assistance to help, either help keep the books and records up to date, or help train new individuals that come in, or as just more of a backup to be involved in the internal control and financial reporting process, so that until you can establish some continuity within the personnel within the accounting and financial reporting department, I think it's a very viable, good option as far as an action plan.
In regards to the comprehensive manual we were talking about earlier, and I know this is something that's been discussed, came up last year, and of course, we've had a lot of turnover in our finance department. There's, been changes at the head of that, and so that's created some of the problems. We've brought in, I think, some temporary people to assist, and so I can understand why some of those things maybe were not stabilized during this past year, but probably I look for great improvement there now that we have Mr. Lawfrey back. And I noticed one thing that was mentioned here in regards to that manual. It says the city does not have the city does have procedure manuals and supporting documents in place, but they're not compiled into one central book because of the diversity of the job functions within the department itself. Staff feels that there has been a significant improvement in this area over the past few years. The procedure books will be an ongoing work as is continually evaluated and improved. Additionally, due to the changing reporting requirements, this manual should never be considered comprehensive. So maybe using that word comprehensive may be somewhat of a misstatement, but it looks like we are trying to get those into one manual. Is that correct, Mr. Lawfrey? Where are we at with that?
Yeah, that is correct. And the note that you're referring to about the comprehensive manual, that's been an ongoing process since probably since Michael's firm began auditing the city. It's been a request that they've made, and we have made strides towards it every year. I think we've made more progress this year than in past even, and I think by next year we may not see eye to eye on whether it's completely comprehensive, but I am confident that it will be a much improved document next year at this time.
On page 6 of the required communication and management letter, it talks about prior year comments and the recommendations that were made by the accounting firm last year, and that maybe things we didn't get accomplished. Just thought you might want to address that if you could.
I think, again, those are all things that we've worked on each year to improve. Some of those are repeated probably from not just last year, but the year before. We've acknowledged that, and we work with Michael each year to try to improve that, and our staff has also done everything they can, given the limited resources, especially this last year. But again, that's why we're looking for maybe an agency from outside that can come in and help because of the turnover in that department and also the short staff. I think that's definitely something we're addressing.
Thank you. I would be shocked if you ever come back with an audit that shows we have no problems and don't need to make any changes. I don't imagine that happens too often with any of your audits, does it?
It's an ever-changing environment, and as anyone can attest, there's always room for improvement.
Thank you.
Mr. Myers.
Hi.
As I review some of your concerns in the financial reporting area, are those listed as, in your process, of most concerning from top to bottom, or? Because the last one is the one that's got my attention as far as the schedule of expenditures regarding the federal awards. I'm assuming those are grants we're talking about?
Yeah, that's the CFA. It's the acronym,
Okay.
Schedule of Federal Awards.
A large portion of our budget revolves around those.
Yeah, and as far as the significant funding, as far as the single audit that puts you over the city over the threshold which required a single audit, is that you had some state revolving loan funds from back in 2007 when you issued some sewer bonds. That money was drawn down for a project, and to get the interest savings that goes along with that program, 70% of those funds that were drawn down from your project account are considered federal awards. So I think that was a little known nuance of that particular program, since those project funds had been unused for a number of years within those sewer bonds. Is that
Are you
answer your question?
referring to item number 1, cash and bond trust account?
Well, that's
Reconciliation,
that's-
but my specific question dealt with the schedule of the federal
Yeah,
award.
and I'm saying that's part of it. That was not identified as a federal award. So as a part of our requirements, when the client is unable to identify those or has trouble making a schedule of all the federal awards, we make a comment that they should evaluate that and get a good understanding of all the grant reporting requirements to be able to prepare the schedule of federal awards.
So how severe is the last line item that I'm making a reference to? Schedule of expenditures of federal awards.
I think what it's being able to prepare the schedule of federal awards. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not in compliance with the laws and regulations related to grant compliance, actual grant compliance of the individual grants. This is just to be able to prepare the schedule. Is that
Yep, that answers my
answers
question.
your question?
And it's been addressed with the city, obviously, and hopefully we won't see that on your report next year.
I hope not.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Frazier?
And just a quick question. You did the last audit for us, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and the main thing I'm concerned is that there weren't any major changes in bookkeeping procedures that prevented us from getting a clean audit?
I'm sorry, please repeat the
There
question.
were no changes in bookkeeping procedure from what you saw between the last time you did an audit and this time we did an audit that would prevent us from getting what we call or referred to as a clean audit?
I would say that we identified last year, as we did this year, adjustments that were material to the financial statements that needed to be made to the books and records to materially report the transaction and account balances on the financial statements.
Right, and they were made.
These adjustments have been made, they're reflected in the financial statements. They were reviewed and agreed upon by staff. They concurred with those adjustments. And a lot of these, we actually worked with them for them to help do schedules and a kind of a training exercise as well.
Thank you.
Alderman Teeman?
From what I've been listening to, and correct me if I'm wrong, because my question is just so that more about me being able to understand, the issues that seem to be brought up in this report seem to be mostly due to staffing and having the proper personnel in place to do the work, creating the schedules and doing the reconciliations, doing the year-end book work and stuff like that. Is that a fair assessment? That, I mean, obviously we brought Mr. Lothry back. He's been a great addition. But it's still understaffed at this point in the finance department? Is that what we're looking at here?
Yeah, this is, understaffed. And again, once you lose some staff, the quality, the training, the understanding, the little nuances of the transactions and how to report those with the city. The finance director position was vacant for 6 months. I don't know exactly, but so it's a combination of all those things that, again, resulted in some of these transactions not being completely and accurately recorded in the financial statements.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Everyone have a good evening. Thank you.
Mayor,
If you do have any questions that you want to give me a call or email me, please don't hesitate to do so. That's not a problem. And I also have to thank Mahesh and Mark and the staff of the City of Raytown in assisting us with our audit engagement.
Mr. Sharman?
thank you, Michael. I don't have a question for you. I'm just making a statement for governing body.
Okay.
So you can take your seat if you desire.
Thank you. Good night.
Mayor and Board of Aldermen, and thank you for some of the good questions that you asked tonight. And like Alderman Van Buskers were saying, there isn't any audit that wouldn't identify some suggestion or deficiency. It's no different than going across this room, and I can guarantee you if Mr. Mark just walked through that room, he can probably create 10 items on the punch list that needs to be fixed. Are those items could be a things to do, but doesn't necessarily, it's a danger to the building. It's just that some of the touch-up work that needs to be done. So when you refer in accounting some of the entries and how it needs to be entered, it doesn't mean that there is any deficiency in accounting. It's just there are rules that we need to follow. As a human nature, we always focus on deficiency, but I can tell you, just looking at this book, and I'm not going to go through this, but I bring your attention to page number 3, titling Financial Highlight. Just reading that paragraph, what it tells you about the financial strength of this city. So let me read it for you. The asset of City of Raytown, Missouri exceeded its liability. That's where you always want to be. Your assets should be more than your liabilities. At the close of the most recent fiscal year by $20.5 million. The city total net position increased $1.857 million when compared to 2013. General activities net position increased $1.278 million due primarily to decreased expenses. The largest single area of decrease in liability was long-term obligation of city continue to pay down debt while not taking any new obligations. Business type activities realized an increase in net position of $579,000 over 2013. Similar to governmental activities, the city continued to decrease its business type long-term obligation. This paragraph is even better than what you had in last year's audit. So the city's fiscal position is much more stronger than it has been. And I want to point out, those are the highlights, and the third-party audit company clearly identified the reason we are in a better financial strength today than we were a year ago is due to the management decisions and decrease in expenses that we were able to brought in. Also, in addition to the other money that we leverage city's dollar to get the funds from other resources. So to me, as a city administrator, if I ignore some of the entries that needs to be done on the book, I focus on the financial strength of the city, and this city is in a better position today than it was, I would say, in the last 8 years. So that's what I wanted to make a statement. It's not about identifying some of the deficiency, also identifying some of the strength. And I want to balance that out. There are a lot of information in there that talks very positive about the city's finances, other than 1 or 2 pages that you saw about deficiency. So I want to make sure there is a balance of information out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Ms. Gustafson on scheduled fees.
Thank you, Mayor McDonough, Board of Aldermen. I've included in your packet the schedule of fee changes that we're advising, but I also, in that memo, wanted to give you the reasons that we actually are making these changes. And I'll go over just what we're going to be changing, and then I'll open it up for questions, if that's okay with you. We're looking at waiving the business license fee for farmers market vendors. We want to add per year to the craftsman license fee in order to give them the availability of having a 2-year license. We want to add a caterer's license fee, which we do not have currently. We want to add change the fireworks license from a retail business license to an actual contracting. We're adding a festival food truck license. We currently do not have that. There's the creation of an alcohol tasting license, food truck temporary liquor license, and microbrewery licenses, which we currently do not have on the books. We're also creating a credit card surcharge fee and a online credit card convenience fee. Those are to accommodate online payments on the website. So those are all the things that we're asking to change, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Tiemann.
I see a lot of new fees here to go along with the schedule that there are already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of fees, and we're adding a whole bunch of new ones. I don't necessarily understand why it needs to become more complex.
One of the things on the alcohol, especially on the alcohol side, last year we had a goal of trying to get in line with the state of Missouri. We currently don't have anywhere in our schedule of fees to accommodate these types, like a food truck. In our schedule of fees, there's not a way to have a food truck drive in, and what we have the fees for and the business, these are all business licenses. So the business license is not so much for us to get fees for revenue, but it is a way for us to know who's doing business in the city. So the fees are only to accommodate us actually getting that license in place. And so for example, instead of having a caterer have a retail license where they'll have to give us a gross receipts and we have to go through a lot of things with them. They're only coming in and doing catering for one day into the city. We wanted to give them a better type of fee that'd be easier and less expensive.
So why would we need to have a separate fee for caterers and a separate fee for food trucks when their services are very similar?
Similar to what?
Well, similar to each other. I mean, a caterer comes in one day and serves food, and a food truck comes in one day and serves food and then leaves. So I don't understand why you'd need to have 2 separate categories for the same, essentially the same licensing.
So you...
I'm just saying, it seems that we can make this a lot less complex for business owners. If you need a license to serve food, then have a license to serve food. I don't necessarily know that it matters whether you're doing it out of a truck or if you're providing a catering service. Does it?
Well, the caterer actually, both of them would be contractors. The food truck actually is a bigger issue because food trucks have different inspections that they go through the Jackson County because they're doing all the food preparation in the truck.
Okay.
Caterers are not.
Okay.
But
don't know.
They go through the Jackson County. We use Jackson County. All of them use Jackson County Health Department, but they have schedules of fees within Jackson County Health Department as well.
Okay, I guess that doesn't seem to make sense. Why we need to have separate licensing for caterers and food trucks? Why wouldn't it just be a food truck and catering license all in one, and it'd be the same fee for both businesses?
That's what you would like us to do.
I think it should be simplified as opposed to just adding extra layers on top of the fee schedule. I mean, if we're creating new fees, I mean, isn't there a way to group some of these fees together and group these categories together so it doesn't become a larger, more convoluted mess?
Did you want to say?
With respect to the 2 alcohol fees, Alderman, those we're trying to follow and stay consistent with state licensing standards, and there are separate categories. And the microbrewery is new. Mr. Benson did research in the last year and is encouraging that, and I'm amending several city codes to create a microbrewery thing to be consistent with the state statute on that. So that's a separate license I would encourage you to have. During Ms. Gustafson's presentation, it sounds like the food truck temporary liquor license is also a new category that we need to have for that. The other side on the businesses, that I guess can be a matter of judgment. I think she was trying to account for them and give them a special category and break on the catering side as opposed to trying to make more layer. I think she was trying to make it expedited and simpler in cost than the regular cater.
Yes, and also I would refer back to it's more going to contractors, and within our contractor fees, if you check, they're very specific. We have for electrician, we have for plumber. We don't just have contractors. We have several different layers of what we do. They're all under contractor fees. It's just the fee, the actual fee that we're charging, but they're all considered contractor fees. It's all under one category of contractor fees, but they each have a different price on them of what we're charging.
Okay.
Mr. Mott.
Yeah, Brenda, I wanted to ask a question on the waiver of the business license on the farmer's market.
Yes.
You're pulling up some information for me today. Can you let the board and people know what you came up with on that?
I checked with 6 different cities in the metro area. All of them waived the fees. Raymore was the most recent that I found that they exempted them. None of the cities actually run their farmers markets. They're actually run usually through a downtown Main Street or through a health department as opposed to through the city. Might be through Jackson County Health.
Then Main Street does carry that business license,
Yes.
correct? Okay. All right, on the craftsman's license fee, I see that's every 2 years. Now, has that went down by any chance, or is it about the same fee as it would be every year?
It's the
As
same
it
fee.
was, I'm sorry.
It's the same fee. We've not increased it. What we did last year, we took the business license fee and offered it as a per year so that we could allow them to have 2 years. And it's been very well received. As I mentioned in the memo, I believe it was 38% of our businesses have actually taken advantage of that. And that reduces cost in paper and producing them and contacting them. There's usually 3 to 4 letters that go out for renewal. They come back, we send out invoice. So last year we saved about $1,700, and that's an annual savings. This year we'll increase that by utilizing online renewal. But we did not have that set up for the craftsmen, and we've had people ask us about that.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a convenience.
Thank you.
Ms. Black?
Thank you. The fireworks, the fireworks tents, putting them under the contractor's license, so they paid a retail business license when they would come into town?
Yes.
And was that per tent or just one?
Per tent.
Per tent. So then they'd be paying $75 per tent?
Yes.
Okay. So the Halloween store that comes in for that 1 month, will that be also considered then going under a contractor's fee?
If they go into a building, then they have to go into a retail license.
Okay.
And it would have to have an occupational license and an inspection previous.
Okay. And what is the, I mean, I'm sure it's on here, but what's the cost for a retail business license?
Actually, it goes on the gross receipts. They give us an estimate of their gross receipts, and there's a formula for it. And so depending on how much they predict that they will be making, and then each year when you do your renewal on the gross receipts license, it goes off of your taxes from the previous year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Green?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, first I want to say I like the idea you guys threw out there about the craftsman's fee, you know, responding to what people want. I think that's a great thing to make that yearly basis. I did have a couple questions, though. One on the credit card processing fee. Okay, let's see if I get this straight here. Okay, so the surcharge fee, so credit card payment fees, surcharge fee is 2.5% of transaction amount. So that's if it's coming in person or on the phone, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so 2.5% of whatever transaction is, we're going to charge for the, okay, so let's say there's a $100 payment and I'm using my credit card, that's a $2.50 transaction fee. So for the entire amount of the payment, correct?
And I'll ask, Mark can help on this, but when you go and make a purchase in a company with a credit card,
Well,
let's say you
I'm
make
aware of
some
that,
purchase at Macy's, you get charged that. It's just that Macy's absorbs
Well, I'm aware
it,
of that, yeah.
but the city cannot.
Okay.
So we're.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Yeah, currently, our credit card processing company charges the customer direct. They do not have the ability to interface with our software for our online payments, so we're changing credit card processing companies, which would be one of the items on the agenda tonight. Since the new company does not charge the customer direct. That's something that we now have to start doing, and that's what this fee is. That's why we have to establish these fees. So yes, in person, it's a 2.5%, phone or in person, and then the other one is for online transactions.
So the customer hypothetically is being charged technically the same amount as what you're saying as they previously would be with this new system, with this new credit card?
Potentially, it's less because the processing company we use right now sets a baseline where they don't go below. So your minimum is $5 with them. So if you come in and do a $20 transaction, you have a $5 convenience fee currently. Whereas if you, in the future, at the 2.5%, obviously, you'd save money with that.
Okay. All right. Well, and thanks for clarifying that aspect. I'm on the other one here. This is the online credit card convenience fee is $3. And that's said here, the justification for that says this fee amount charged will help cover the costs charged to the city by the credit card intermediary that processes the credit card payment. Well, first off, that's $3 for that?
That one, we have to actually set a fixed rate for the online transactions. We can't do it based on a percentage. And that's why we have to do two fees. So what we looked at is currently an average sewer bill, because that's what most of our online transactions would be, and that's where we came up with the $3.
You know, I'm just thinking about when I pay my sewer bill. I'd love to pay online. I'd save me a stamp, but you know, $3. I'm like, there was no magic calculation that we did. We just took what we felt an average transaction online would be and did the 2.5% application to it. That's what we came up with. Okay. I'm gonna keep going here. Sorry, I had a list here.
No problem.
Okay, let's say, I'm gonna give a hypothetical. Let's say I have a food truck. Okay, it's Cinco de Mayo, I'm selling nachos, right? Okay, whatever. And I pull up somewhere, let's say a park, and I don't have a Raytown business license. I have my state stuff, I have my Jackson County stuff, I have my health code stuff, all that stuff. And you guys find me. What are you gonna do? Am I gonna have to stop selling my nachos today immediately?
Yes.
Is there any way that there's a process for, we can work out something right then and there to say, hey guys, I wasn't aware of this. This is a new law. This is a new regulation, rather. You know, I'm obviously a businessman. I'm not in the, I don't have time to come to city hall meetings and hear these new regulations you guys are putting on me. You know, what can I do to make sure I can still sell and make a profit and feed my kids at home? I mean, I know it's kind of a little story I'm giving here, but no, I want to know, I just don't want to see something like this take place where somebody's like, hey, guess what? I'm ignorant to this new law. You know, I'd like to provide a service here and help make revenue. Don't shut me out, City of Raytown.
But, and we would want to encourage business in the city, but it is the business owner's responsibility to know the laws of the city, the state, and the county. They couldn't do that if Jackson County Health Department hadn't checked them out. You can't just pull up and say Jackson County would close them down quicker than we would. So you have to know that as a business owner, it's your responsibility to know the laws. Having said that, we have worked with people before that didn't understand what it was, and including saying, okay, we understand you don't understand this. Let us help walk you through it, and for this first time, and we won't penalize you for not having your license, but you have to get it taken care of within so many days.
Okay, well then let me follow up on that. So, and I got some head nods when I said this. So literally, I mean, again, so it's a new law. I know it's a responsibility to know that, but it is a new law. Let's say, you know, there's a guy who lives a block away from me who operates a food truck for a living, you know, and I just hate to see somebody, again, you know, I'm thinking the small business guy, another regulation. They've been operating this without interference from the city of Raytown for X amount of years, and now all of a sudden, you know, there's that going on. So what I'm getting at is this, like, is there any way we can establish some kind of procedure, like in print, that says this guy didn't know the city of Raytown had this regulation? We can do one of these, you know, and say, look, you need to fill out this paperwork, but we're not going to shut you down today. We just need you to fill this stuff out and try to get and compliance, if you will. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
I would say that we always will work with business people. We've had people open businesses in buildings and not tell us. But once we find out, then we go back and say, here's what you need to do. We're not going to shut you down. And there's another example is last year we changed the law for Sunday sales for liquor. Just because is a new law for Sunday sales, businesses they could not just because they had been doing Sunday sales and we didn't catch them, doesn't mean they can't go by the new law. And we advertised the new law. We let all the liquor owners know that we had a new law. We'll probably put the new law out. It'll be in online. Food trucks can check to see that we have a new law. We actually don't have that many food trucks that came in to the city.
Yeah, I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah, it's like, so we've not really, I mean, we haven't found a food truck and then drove up and said,
yeah.
you have the, because we just don't have that many food trucks in this city.
Yeah.
It is a new law, but I will tell you that it is not a new law for the metro. I checked because food trucks are kind of a new thing as far as the proliferation of them. So I checked in surrounding cities. Our fees are incredibly low compared to what other cities are charging to come in, to just drive a food truck and stop in.
Well, and that was my ultimate concern. I just want to make sure we're not shutting somebody out. And because I'd really hate to see that take place. And I got two very more brief ones about this, and I'll be quick. Number one, who regulates all this? Is it we gonna have codes drive around and check on all these guys? I mean, I'm just curious how that process works. Is this done through the police department? I mean, I guess I'm kind of lost on that.
I'll give you a little bit of an example. Like, if our building inspectors driving around, they stop and they see somebody putting a new roof on. They don't have a permit. We don't say, oh, get out of the city. We say, you know what, you need a permit for this, and we'll give you this many days to get that permit done, but you're going to have it done. Otherwise, we'll give you a summons. It's a ticket to come to court. It's not shutting them down.
Okay, because when I said that earlier, I saw some head nods like, yeah, we're shutting them. I'm like, I just want to make sure we're going to work with people, but...
We do work with people, but we will eventually, if you do not comply,
sure, obviously, of
eventually
course.
we would.
And last thing, taking enough of your time, Brenda.
That's okay.
And you may not know this answer. When was the last time we increased fees? It seems like every year we obviously have this conversation. I'm just curious when the last time, because I think it was last year or 2 years ago. I remember there was something. I can't
Actually,
recall.
what we did not increase fees. What we did was add
additional ones?
Sunday sales.
Okay.
And then we added the per year so that you could go every 2 years. We haven't changed our fees in many, I know haven't changed for 5 years. 2013 is when we added the Sunday license, but
Is
the
that what that
actual
was?
fees, like fees for gross receipts hasn't changed for years. The liquor licenses besides the Sunday sales haven't been changed in 15 years. I did double check that. But we haven't increased fees in the last, at least the last 2 years since I've been here. We've not increased fees at all.
Thanks for your time.
Sure, thanks.
Mr. Van Buskirk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 2-year fees, do you reduce the amount if they get a 2-year fee versus a 2-year license versus
No.
a 1-year license?
No, it's just a convenience.
It's convenience of not having to do it every year. And on the vendors, that $10, is that per occasion or is that for a
No,
yearly?
that's a year. That's a year
yearly
caterer
fee,
license.
$10, so very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
What type of fee would there be for farmer market vendors? How much?
If they would have a gross receipts is what Because agriculture, if you sell what you produce, that's actually exempted by the FDA, so they would not have to have a license. It's the other things in the farmer's market. So if you sell soap or things that you actually did not produce, that's what we're asking to waive. We still want them to fill out the business license so we know that they're in this city, but we're just trying to give them a leg up by helping them get established as a farmer's
Have we
market.
been charging a business license fee for those vendors that have been there?
We did last year. They've only
We
been
did.
there 1 year.
And how much is that?
It was a gross receipt, so they'd have to give us an estimate of what they thought they would make.
Okay, so what?
It averaged $30.
Okay. I'm not for waiving fees for those vendors. And I think we need to be consistent. The thought is, I know that, well, hey, maybe that'll bring more vendors in. Well, if we did that for other people and where we charge fees and licenses, it might bring more people into our city to do business too. So I think that would be applicable just about everything. So we're not charging those who are selling agricultural products, is that correct?
Right,
At all?
that's per the
It's just
law.
those who are selling other items there. I would not be in favor of waiving that fee. Did have a question about the alcohol tasting license, sampling, but not selling alcohol at private affairs. Now, what exactly would that be? What kind of an affair?
It would be, so I'll give you an example of one that's being planned right now for the city of Raytown is a craft beer festival. There's one being planned for September. There will be no selling of alcohol, it's just sampling. And again, going along with the state of Missouri, that's what they've implemented. Kansas City implemented that, so did Lee Summit, so did Parkville, in order to accommodate that type of, where they still have to have an alcohol license, they still have to adhere to all the state of Missouri alcohol regulations, they have to have insurance, but they're able to sample without having to have a regular, they already have a liquor license, but to go along with what the state's doing, because there are more festivals that are just sampling liquor, they're not selling liquor. So that it would be for people that would not be selling it.
Now, what about, say, for instance, at the Art and Music Festival? Say a winery wanted to come in where they're sampling. Would this be applicable to
Yes.
that?
Yes.
What if they were selling along with it?
If they're selling, they have to get an actual license. They could have a temporary license if they have a state of the Missouri license, but it would be a liquor, to sell liquor.
So would they
The
require
city.
both licenses then?
If they're sampling and selling?
Sampling and selling? No.
No. If they're
Just the one.
selling, they can, there's
Okay, I was
rules
going to say it'd be
allowed to
kind of
sample.
hitting them
Yeah,
really hard.
no, we're not
there
going to
otherwise.
double hit them.
Okay. Okay, appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Van Busker?
That's it for me.
Ms. Emerson?
Sorry. And we get some unruly people. And they cause multiple problems. Who knows what could happen? What is the liability of the city?
Can you tell me again what you're asking?
Okay. If you have vendors, truck vendors selling liquor, okay, and there's, say, 3 or 4 of them, and there are some people who will drink heavily. If they could, let's just say, the police would have to come because there was a disturbance, maybe they stabbed somebody.
Oh, my.
What, I know, but this is, I mean, it could happen. I mean, in this day and age, what is the liability of the city?
Actually, the vendors have to have their own insurance before we'll give them a license. They cannot sell liquor without having insurance to cover their liability.
Okay. Also, on these fees for the credit cards, are you going to be allowing checks to be paid online?
Yes.
Okay, and there's no
Check
fee
with-
for that, correct? Okay,
No fee for that.
all righty. I think that's all I have.
Ms. Frazier?
I do applaud what you're doing, especially when you look at vendors, whether they're selling food out of a truck, or they're the front yard or the farmer's market. The bottom line is, when you have the business people who make it a point to learn what the law is and abide by it, it's only fair to make sure everybody does that. And I do know, and I've had vendors tell me in complaint form, that they don't like it when they're abiding by the law and the city isn't making somebody else do that. So we need to keep everybody on the same playing field. So I think that's why it's important that we do make sure everybody has that in place. The second thing has to do with the farmer's market. And I know there's other fees. It's just not a license fee to be in that farmer's market. And I don't know factually speaking, but I've had complaints to me from vendors who do participate that they felt that the fees to participate in the Raytown Farmers Market is higher than most cities or places that they do participate. That's a concern of theirs, especially for the people who do produce their own food. We do have, I don't want to use the word vendor, but we have people who have a farmer's market in their front yard all summer long. And I don't think they have a license probably most of the time. I've never checked, but at least the only one I did check with didn't have one.
You don't have to have a business license if you're producing your own food.
Right. And why I think that's important is that in our farmers market, there are vendors who go downtown and buy large quantities of food from wholesalers, and then they bring it to our farmers market and sell it. And they're competing against the people who are out raising it in their backyard or some field that they do that in. And I think it's important that they do have some kind of an advantage, because when I think of a farmer's market, I like to think of when I go to it, I'm getting homegrown food. And in many cases, that's not true. They're just going downtown to Peixoto's or some big wholesaler, and they buy it and bring it out to Raytown and sell it. So,
And I believe, that would be set up by downtown.
right. And I know we're not in control of all
The
that.
city doesn't do
Right.
that, but I believe in their agreement that they don't let them do that. But I would have to double check on that. But I believe that the Raytown Farmers Market does not allow you to bring in food, and it has to be organic, I know.
Well, that was a complaint that I heard from a person that participated, that they did let him do that. So I've already preceded by saying I'm not certain that's true, but it was a complaint made to me at least twice. So I'm just sharing that with you for all it's worth. Thank
And
you.
maybe I can forward that on
Yeah.
to
Right.
Eliza.
Anything else, Mr.
Thank you.
Frazier? Mr. Tiemann?
I'll be real quick. For the online credit card convenience fee, is it more expensive to process checks manually at the window or have them mailed in and have the envelopes opened, or is it less expensive to have people pay online?
Excellent question, first off. If you mail a check in, it actually goes through a third-party vendor. We use what it's called a Dropbox service. So they process it, and they do charge us a processing fee. It's similar to the fee that we would charge when you walk up. And we do not pass that on to the customer. That is something that, because of the savings that we feel we save by not having to have the staff here to do it, for checks. Now, if you, for credit cards, it's different. Those are processed. Right now, we don't allow the online We don't have a process in place for that. So that's what we're trying to establish here.
You don't have a process in place for what?
For the online credit card payments that tie directly into our system to where you can log in, see your account, know exactly what it is, and apply it directly to your account.
Okay.
What we run into a lot of times with those, without it being tied to an account, people actually log in and put the wrong account number in.
Right.
And process a payment, and then we don't find it for 2 to 3 weeks while we're trying to figure out where that money where it's supposed to be applied to.
Okay, so but would there be a cost savings for people, for people choosing to use the online service over manually writing a check, whether they bring it up here by hand or they mail it in? Is it less expensive? I mean, because basically what I'm getting at is if it's less expensive to have them pay online, then why aren't we charging the fees to paying with a check so that we can corral everybody towards paying online and save the city money because we're creating efficiencies and encouraging people to use those efficiencies by going online? It seems kind of counterproductive to say, we want you to pay online because it's more efficient and it's better for us as a city, but we want to charge you for it, whereas if you just bring up a written check, you know, which is the standard from the early 20th century, and it costs us more to process it, we would rather you do that.
And if you pay online with a check, there is no fee. If you pay online with a credit card, because we get charged a fee by our bank or our processing company, we do charge the fee. It's not required. I mean, the online portion of that, to charge a fee for online transactions, it's not required by our vendor. It's just if we want to recoup some of that, then we can apply it, but it's not required.
Okay. And then my only other thing was, why do we charge $75 to sell alcohol, but we want to charge $90 to give it away?
Why do we sell, say that again?
Well, the business license to sell alcohol, at least the way, according to the fee schedule I wrote.
Temporary
the
license?
the retail sales license, as it was listed on the page I was just looking at. Retail sales license for liquor. Retail selling of beer and wine only by the drink or in the original package, $75. We're going to charge them $90 just to take a sip or half a glass of wine to see if they like it?
That's for everyone for an event. So it's not one. $75 would be is selling.
Right.
Where we're in.
And 90 is for giving it away.
Right.
Okay, my question is, why wouldn't they both be 75 or why wouldn't they both be 90?
What I did was look at what the state and what others are doing, and then we reduced ours to what came in line with our contractor fees, and that's what the formula that we came up with.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Emerson.
I need to set the record straight on the Raytown Farmers Market. The vendors must produce what they sell. They can't go buy things like there is a place down on Raytown Traffic Way that goes to an auction and buys things, but Raytown Farmers Market does not. As far as vendor fees, $10 each week, well, either a Thursday or a Saturday each time we have the farmers market. It's $10 to sell. And then they do have to register with the city, and also there's a $25 registration fee from the farmers market. But we do not let anyone sell that does not produce what they're bringing to market.
That was my understanding as well.
Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brenda, thanks for coming out and putting up with us tonight with all this stuff. There's a lot of, actually there's quite a few things here. For me, if I were you, I'm for some of these and some I'm not. It'd be easier for everybody if we would just go one at a time, if you would bring that to the board, because I think the board's pretty split on what you've got here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 issues to want us to pass at one time. I'm for waiving the business license fee for the farmers market vendors. For a catering license fee, I'm kind of on the fence for that. I don't see a whole lot of catering going on in this town. Fireworks fee, not real sure about that one, but I could probably go that way. Food festival trucks, we just don't have a whole ton of them crashing this city. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on.
Well, we had 6 come in just this week asking for different areas in the city
Okay.
that were producing.
Okay.
Cinco de Mayo today, we had 3
Okay.
asked today.
Tasting license fee, that's up in the air. I'm not real crazy about that one. Temporary liquor license, sold out of a truck. Like I said, if it was me, I would,
And let me just address the tasting license.
Mhm.
That's a state law that we have to have some, state wants us to have something, and that's, the liquor ones are all aligning with changes that the state has made.
okay. If we were to, okay. Thank you, Brenda.
Sure.
And hopefully one more. Mr. Van Busker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just regarding the waiving the fees for the farmer's market, again, Jen, it's correct. It's limited, very limited, as to who can sell their produce there. It's all just certified organic, so people who grow their own produce in the area and the community cannot come there and sell. I wish they could. It would probably be much more successful if we allowed that, but as a city, we don't control that. It's a private entity. Main Street, I assume, is the one that's collecting. She's talking about the $10 fee per vendor. That would have to be Main Street. That's not the city that's collecting that. And as you said, there are no fees charged for those who are selling produce there. So that's already waived. And so it's just those that are selling other items. They're selling them there for profit. That's why they come there. That's the whole thing. And so I think for consistency, we should not waive those fees. If they were selling those and they said, hey, we're gonna give 100% of it to charity, maybe to REAP, I wouldn't have a problem with that. We might want to waive those fees, but that's not the case. They're there trying to make money. That's why they're selling their products, and so I would not be in favor of doing that. And I think we need to be consistent in what we do. Thank you.
Ms. Emerson.
The FDA has said that farmers who produce product do not pay any fees. If they produce candles, alpaca items, yes, they must pay the fee and the registration with the city. But as far as farmers producing product to sell, it is not, as far as the FDA is concerned, it cannot be charged as far as fees.
And Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. I would just like to point out to the rest of the board, we're still in study session and inquiring information on this. So if we have debate, if we could wait until we actually get to that point on the agenda, I just wanted to point out for everybody here, because it sounds like there's some debate, dialogue going on. I just wanted to point out we are still in study session. Thank you.
And Ms. Emerson. Thank you, Ms. Gustafson. We will now move into the legislative session. We have a consent agenda before us, and I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Teeman,
Yes.
Alderman Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Myers,
Yes.
Alderman Moore,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
Yes.
Alderman Black,
Yes.
And the next item is a resolution authorizing and approving the appointment of Michael Lightfoot to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Oh, sorry.
Item 2.
Point of contact is Teresa Henry.
That was part of your consent agenda.
Yeah, please. Oh, that was part of it. I'm sorry.
We're on to item 2 now.
Okay.
We're back to the schedule.
I would ask the clerk to please call the roll on that. Oh,
We've already done that. We're good. We're on number 2.
okay. Anybody have any conversation on?
No.
Okay.
We need to read number 2.
Okay, go ahead and read it.
Item number 2, a resolution approving an amended formal and comprehensive schedule of fees and charges for the city of Raytown, Missouri.
Could you say that one more time? I can't hear you up here.
Again?
I
A
know.
resolution approving an amended formal and comprehensive schedule of fees and charges for the city of Raytown, Missouri.
Mr. Van Busker.
Yeah, consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've had quite a discussion relative to this already. Can we go back through it again? No. I would like to make an amendment to the resolution not to waive the fees for farmers market as proposed here. Other than that, I'm in agreement with all of the other changes, additional fees that we have.
Do I hear a second from anybody? Any discussion? All right.
If
There was no second.
if there is not a second, then there won't be discussion
Right,
relative
discussion
to it.
at this point, and we've already had some, so let's please move on to motion to, I'm sorry. It failed, so, all right, let's go on to the next one. The amendment failed. Now we have to go to the motion. Okay, you got the motion second on what's written.
But point of order. Okay, so there was a motion made by Mr. Van Buskirk for an amendment that failed. Who made another motion? Okay, and to approve.
As written.
Okay, I did not hear that. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry. That's what it's for. Do I hear a second? All right. Ms. Henry? I was going to have her read it again just to make sure everybody understood what we're... Does everybody understand it, or we need to read it again? Everybody understands it? Okay, very good. Mr. Lawfrey? Okay, I'm sorry for the confusion. Okay.
It would just be discussion on the resolution and the motion.
Right. Any
At this
discussion at
point.
all? Nope, okay. Ms. Henry, call the roll, please. Oops, sorry, didn't see that. Go ahead.
Thank you. It sounds like that a lot of the scheduling, which I didn't really talk at all during the study session, but a lot of the scheduling is things that are essentially we're getting caught up with the state on, which I think is very crucial, especially when it comes to such things as basically anything concerning liquor laws, because I know that liquor laws of the state are very strict. So I see that a lot of it we're just catching up with the state, so I think that this is something we should just kind of go along with the state is telling us we need to do on some of these things. That and also the credit card surcharge fee and the online credit card convenience fee. I think Mark did a great job explaining why those have to be different. And also we do have to, since they do take that portion out of it, we kind of cover our losses there. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
And Mr. Jason Green.
I just want to state again, thanks Brenda for all the talk and I had conversation. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Ms. Henry?
On a motion to approve. Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
No.
Alderman Moore?
No.
Alderman Van Busker?
No.
Alderman Teeman?
No.
Alderman Black?
No.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Myers?
No.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Fails 4-6. And you also need to then not do item 3. Motion fails. And item number 3 is dependent on this passing. Which means we cannot accept online payments. We'll need to move to table 3. We will need to move to table number 3. We have to table it.
I'll make a motion to table number 3 until a date certain of, someone give me something here.
Second.
What's the next meeting? The 19th? Thank you. I just didn't know the next day. A table to a date certain of May 19th.
There, a second? Mr. Teeman, you have a second? Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Van Busker?
thank you. I think it might behoove staff to bring some of this back and separate it into separate resolutions, especially with the credit card charges and fees and possibly some of the others, but that maybe should be a consideration. So,
Any other discussion? Ms. Henry?
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Teeman?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Moore?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Van Busker? Alderman Black?
Yes.
Alderman Azier? Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Myers?
Yes.
All right, let's move on to number 4. Mr. Boji, do you have anything?
It's
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry. Yes. Hang on a second. Sorry about that.
A resolution amending the fiscal year 2014-2015 budget related to Parks and Recreation capital improvements.
And our point of contact, Mr. Boji. All right.
I think
Lawler.
Mr. Boji would like me to address this since I've went through this process with the Sales Tax Oversight Committee and prepared the RBA for this. If that's okay with the mayor? You can't hear us? Okay. Let me lean in a little. All right. Mr. Boji has asked that I cover this since I presented it to the Sales Tax Oversight Committee and have a little more background on it, if that's okay with the mayor?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now I'm breathing into it. During the budget process, there was discussion after the city budget was adopted. The park budget came forward, and there was discussion that evening about the funding for capital improvements at Super Splash. There was direction given at that time to keep Super Splash open, I believe, is what I understood the intent of the conversation, just listening to it, the video of it since I was not here at that time. The direction at that time given to staff was to come up with the necessary funds from the sales tax, capital sales tax. So moving forward, the time has come to do that. We took the presentation to the Sales Tax Oversight Committee and presented to them using $80,000 of funds from the STOC, from the capital sales tax, excuse me, and moving that into the park fund to make these capital improvements. However, the Sales Tax Oversight Committee chose not to consider it, but to table it, waiting for the results of the current study that the park board has contracted. The problem with that, obviously, is that study will not be complete anywhere near before the pool needs to open here in the next 30 days. So kind of caused a little bit of a conundrum for us as staff to come up with a way to fund it. And I believe you heard earlier there are some options. One of them is as proposed by staff, which is to use the unappropriated funds from the park fund and also the park fund reserve. The other option would be to take it from capital, the general fund, or to, I guess, to go back to the Sales Tax Oversight Committee and see what we could do there. But in an effort to move this along, because the pool is imminently in danger of opening or not opening without approval, that's why we wanted to bring it forward as it is this evening. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Mr. Josh Green.
Thank you. Mr. Lawford, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you just told us correctly. So essentially, the Sales Tax Oversight Committee tabled this because they want the results of the plan study that's not going to be done for
possibly a year. Yeah. And I guess in brief, what I would say is they felt that if that study comes back and recommends closing Super Splash, then that is not a wise use of city money to put into it. The conversation we had that evening, and Alderman Van Buskirk is the liaison to that, and I think he can speak to this as well. In my opinion to them was that is the Board of Aldermen's decision on whether it's a wise use. Their direction is to approve it as to whether it meets the intent of the capital sales tax.
And that's what I was just wondering is so, okay. So this is basically pulling both halves, because the city, we basically passed an, I don't know if it was a resolution or what the resolution, this was months ago, concerning this and us splitting the expenditures on this in order for Super Splash to open back up.
There wasn't a resolution, it was just direction that evening, actually. I don't think there was an actual resolution. Well, it was the 80,000 expenditure from the park fund was not line item, but that was part of their budget that evening, that discussion. But the other side of it was not that evening, it was just direction. It was not a resolution, which is why there was some confusion.
Okay, so this, and again, I'm sorry if these questions seem redundant. I just want to make sure I'm understanding all of this correctly, because this situation, it seems like with the Sales Tax Oversight Committee tabling it, has kind of turned into a confusing situation to me. So essentially, now all $160,000 is now coming out of the parks. I can't find the sheet that I just had here. The half of it's coming from the unappropriated fund balance, and the other is coming from the reserve, right?
That is the proposal.
Okay. And what do we have any alternatives to that, or is basically right now what we're looking at is the pulling all of that out of parks?
Again, I think as I laid out, the alternative would be to take it from the general fund.
Okay.
That's for better or for worse, the general fund kind of is the fallback for any budget funding. It's the only fund that can transfer to all other funds, so that's the fallback. Or it could go back to the Sales Tax Oversight Committee for consideration with direction from the Board of Aldermen. Maybe what specifically maybe the mayor on what they feel the responsibility of the Sales Tax Oversight Committee is and isn't. Or it could be approved as presented, or I guess the last option is that it's just not approved at all, and all the work that's going on right now comes to a screeching halt.
Okay. All righty. Thank you for clarifying all that for me, and again, sorry if my questions seemed a bit redundant.
Mr. Mott.
Okay, here's what we got here. The pool will be opening.
18 days.
At 18. Alright. Now, I'd like to see possibly just fees out of the general fund. Question is, pool will open this year. Study is going on today.
A different budget year, by the way. Well, we went forward with the process based upon what we felt was an agreement that we had between the city and the Parks Board. The pool opens in 18 days from tonight, and in preparation for pool opening, we've spent roughly $130,000 of the 160 that we were talking about. Half was to come from the park department, half was to come from the city. So, that money's already been spent. So if we have to fund the whole 160, we got some other problems. I don't know what they are yet. I don't know what we have to do to make it right, but it's a serious problem for us. Plus, I want to point out that the Sales Tax Committee, weren't invited to that meeting. We didn't know anything about it. 2, the study is way out there in the future, and the pool is a very difficult thing to manage because the actual period that it's open is 60, 70 days in the summer, but there's a lot of health and safety issues that you got to do beforehand. This year, we've spent a lot of money on rehabbing slides. Last thing you want's a little kid going down on their behinds down those slides and getting impaled with a piece of loose fiberglass. So we spent a bunch of money fixing that. We had to do a lot of, because of the age of the pool, replacing plumbing. Had Schedule 40 PVC type pipes under the ground, under the concrete, that we've replaced that will make our water usage go down. And we replaced them with Schedule 80. I mean, that's all plumbing kind of stuff. I don't understand what I'm talking about much on that topic, but we've spent a lot of money getting ready for this year, and this surprise of not having the assistance as we thought we had an agreement with the city has really caused us a lot of angst.
I know you all have busted your tails up there. I know management and everybody else has. Thank you, okay?
Mr. Myers.
This is more of a general statement, and obviously we on the board feel the tug. Okay, there's an overwhelming majority of folks that are new to the board, that followed the issue, that possibly might not have voted. We might have voted just like the park board did, to close you know, an attraction that's just not, it's just not pulling its own weight anymore. But with that being said, 18 days away, we're certainly going to find a revenue source to make that happen. I feel we are. But the Sales Tax Oversight Committee did this board a favor by turning down the request for $50,000 to come out of a streetlight project, or one that was allocated for that. Maybe it went away. But I don't think, and set my memory straight, I'm new here, the way the funding was directed to staff was find it, we don't care how you get it. That was poor direction. That was very poor direction, because that put a stress on staff to go into areas that, I'm sorry, but Super Splash probably doesn't trump streetlights in our city. It's something that we all know have a need. It's established, and we promise our citizens that we have it. You want this place filled up again, pull out $50,000 of funds allocated towards something that's going to protect our citizens, the police, street lights. That needs established. We're going to find the money tonight, but I can guarantee if we ever send a request to city for funding, it's going to be pretty much with a specific earmark where we'd like it to come from, not just throw it up in the air, pull, tug, and shoot. That's not the way the city operates. That's not the way the city, we're structurally more sound than that. So I apologize that that was put on the city staff to do it that way, but I'm going to be voting in favor of funding the pool. In 18 days, we'll have kids up there swimming. That's what's important in this process. Thank you.
Mr. Frazier?
I certainly agree with the Sales Tax Oversight Committee. It was their decision, they made it, and I would stand beside them in that decision. I do agree with Alderman Mock. That's where it makes sense to take the funds. That was the original question, where is it going to come from? And I don't think that the park board should bear the whole burden for the whole thing, because they were going to close it with the direction of this board at the time that we keep it open. And I do know that a lot of people in this city are glad it is going to be open again. So I support Alderman Mock's original statement that it should come from the general revenue source.
Mr. Moore? Mr. Van Busker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was actually not a commitment made by the city specifically. There was an implication, a strong one, certainly, that there would be assistance. But we did not pass a resolution as such. There was that didn't happen. What we did pass was that the board felt that Super Splash should stay open another year, and that with the park study, hopefully that would show what direction we need to go in the future. There's a I know that there wasn't any specifics given as to where those funds might come from, because we didn't specifically, say we were going to do that. There was some disagreement about that. In fact, we were getting information at the time that possibly the park department actually had more funds than they thought they had because of some accounting problems there. And I understand that that might be the case, because basically the park department was saying, we don't have the funds to do this, but the thinking was that, well, maybe they really do have, and I'm not suggesting that you were deceiving us in any way. I think you were being honest in what you're saying. But along with that, we, and I did ask you, Mr. Bogie, specifically, when you appeared before us not too long ago, and you talked about what was going to be done up there, the cost of the study, the cost of the improvements, the capital improvements need to be made. I asked you specifically, are those contingent on the city providing any funds? And you told me no, if you remember that. And, but of course at that particular time, you had made a commitment to do those things. So that probably, I guess, was maybe an appropriate answer, that you were going to do them irregardless. The Sales Tax Oversight Committee felt that that was not necessarily an appropriate use for capital sales tax. They had the question, has the city ever provided funding for the parks through capital sales tax before? And no one could really answer that, but I would say the answer probably was no. So they were not comfortable with going ahead and giving us direction from them to give us a thumbs up on using those funds from capital sales tax. And that's why they tabled it. And plus, they understood that there's this ongoing study. It's going to take quite a while to accomplish that. And certainly that will give us some direction for the future. That study may come back and they may say, yes, you need to keep this facility open. You know, people keep talking about that thing draining money. Well, parks always drain money. That's what parks are for. You dump money into parks. So you go up to Carnegie Park, it doesn't produce revenue. It's not meant to produce revenue. We dump money into it every year. We dump money into every one of our parks every year. They're there for the citizens of our city. And Super Splash is part of the park system. It's there for the same reason. In the past, because it was actually making some revenue, everyone thought, well, it should continue doing that. Most of these facilities that are ran by cities don't make revenue. And the problem probably was that when it was making revenue, that additional money was probably not put back into the infrastructure like it should have been. Had those repairs been made as time went along, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. But there is an obligation. You have to pay that money. And I strongly feel that even though we did not vote on a commitment to do that, that the commitment was implied, certainly, that the city would assist you this one time with the repairs or with the money you're going to need relative to either the repairs or the park study that you're doing. And the staff and the city also, the board strongly implied they wanted to keep Super Splash open. That wasn't our decision. That was a decision of the park board, but it was with the direction that we wanted to keep it open. But you made that decision, and to do the comprehensive study of parks. I believe it should be called Raytona Beach anyway. I don't like Super Splash, but that's a whole nother issue. But getting off chasing a rabbit here. I'm sorry, I have trouble with that. I am not for taking that money from the capital sales tax fund. I believe that we can take it from the general fund. There's unappropriated funds that could be allocated for that there, and I make a motion that we supply up to $80,000 for the park department from the general fund to be used as you produce bills for us and give them to us relative to those repairs, then we will reimburse you for them from that fund. And this, knowing that this is a one-time occurrence, this isn't something that, you're going to need to plan on each year and go, hey, we'll keep it open next year, but we're going to get funding from the city. So I hope that would be clear. Thank you. So I guess I actually probably this would be an amendment to the resolution. The resolution states, well, certainly it has a recommendation from the staff, but I believe over in the resolution itself, it indicates that the $80,000 would come from the park's unappropriated fund balance of $80,000 and park fund balance reserve of $80,000. So I would like to replace that parks fund balance reserve, the $80,000, with funding from the city general fund for that $80,000.
Is that the part that you're talking about where it says on an as-needed basis? Is that what the part you're talking about?
Yes, that's correct.
Here, a second?
I need to be clear on the motion.
I'm sorry?
I need to be clear on what the motion actually is. If
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr.
you could
Okay.
restate it.
The motion is to provide up to $80,000 as needed for repairs this year for Super Splash to the park department from the city, from the general fund. Yes, we're provided with two options. One option is that the park department pay the full $160,000. The other one is that we could take it from the general fund, and that's my suggestion. And that's actually my motion.
Ms. Senator, do you see where he's talking about? The
Sure
second
do.
sentence of the third paragraph?
Yes.
The general fund could transfer the park fund up to $80,000 on an as-needed basis to complete these projects? Okay.
Got it.
Need further clarification?
I'm clarified.
Okay.
There was
Mr. Frazier did a second, I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Josh Green.
I was pretty much just gonna make the same motion that Bill made, because I feel like there was an implication the city was going to help out on this, and I think that it's important that we stick to our word. And I also want to commend Alderman Myers for his statements. The fact is, we won't back off on this, guys. We're there with you all the way.
And Mr. Jason Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've heard a lot of some good thoughts from Mr. Van Buskirk, Mr. Myers, a lot of folks. Obviously, as we know, that tougher decisions are going to be ahead very soon once the study comes out, and that's going to be very interesting. I did want to have more of a statement than anything. I'm very happy that the motion was made, obviously, not to have it come out of the streetlight situation. That bugged me when I read that. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend that meeting where, apparently it's not a resolution, but the commitment of good faith that the city was going to come in and help subsidize this venue. I personally agreed with the Parks Department on your all's original decision. I think it took, and I know it made some people angry and frustrated, but I think it still took a lot of courage to do that. Like a lot of folks up here refer, there was a study done on this pool as opposed to the demand for it the way it is, the marketing, the role of the pool. Should it be this role it is now, or more of a a more limited role, like a community pool or some sort, all before these funds were committed, whether it be by Parks Department or by the city, to keep, the taxpayers from eating the cost on this. I unfortunately was not there to vote on the original statement that the city was going to support that. I frankly, the one no vote was Alderman Emerson, and I would have voted with her in that regard. It's a bad situation any way you slice it. And that's all there's to it. Either way, there's going to be negatives. I'm trying to think of the way to put this here. I got some notes here, but I'm not going to go through all this. A lot of people said a lot of things. The city made an agreement to the previous administration, instructed staff to find it, didn't say how, which that's a whole other problem in itself, in my opinion, but I'm not going to go there right now. And you guys made plans based on that. And that's the problem we're in now. Because administrations changed, councils changed, and because there was less of a defined role of this months prior, we're here tonight going through all this, having to sit through the hours of debating the fees and all this other stuff. I don't envy you for that at all. I am going to abstain from this vote because I didn't support the city subsidizing it in the first place. However, I'm not going to vote no because of the situation that the Parks Department has been put into. And I just wanted to make that statement clear tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Teeman.
I was just curious, a couple of things. A, I believe Mr. Copeland earlier stated that the reserve fund for the Parks Board was at about $90,000 currently. And the recommendation from the staff is that we should use the unreserved cash balance from the Parks budget and $80,000 of the fund balance reserve to make these changes. If there's only $90,000 in that account, why was the recommendation to use $80,000 of it to as opposed to the recommendation being take the money from the general fund?
Clearly, we wouldn't make a recommendation to spend money that's not there. You have a unencumbered or unappropriated cash balance, and then in any of the sales tax funds, we also use a fund balance reserve, which is an additional amount set aside. So that is give or take $120,000. So there's actually $200,000 in the park fund that would be unappropriated cash. It's just one is considered a reserve that we set up as prudent budgeting, and the other is actual unappropriated cash balance.
Anything else? Mr. Azier.
Just revisiting some of the discussion that we had months ago, and that when we look at your park situation, this is the public park, but it really boils down to something very simple. Is Raytown a thriving city, or is Raytown a dying city? When you start closing parks, then the question is this the sort of thing that will attract new young families into this city? The cities that seem to be prospering are the ones that do have parks, that do have pools, and they come across as a place that you want to move to. So when we start make decisions as a board because we think we know what we believe or how we want to spend our money, and we do it without citizens' involvement, then we put ourselves up above the citizens. We simply say, we don't care what you want, and we don't care if you have a voice. We'll make the decisions ours to make. When we look at the closing the pool, this isn't just about closing Super Splash because it costs money. I think Alderman Van Buskirk made it very clear, this is the park system. There's simply no park that makes money. They all cost money. So you're really talking about the total park budget and how the park spends their budget. That's the real picture you're looking at. And that's what I think we're really taking on here, is making a decision on what parks stay open and which ones don't. It's not just about Super Splash. So, yes, we have a year to think about this, and I don't know what the study is going to say. I don't know who, I know they've had a lot of meetings, but the bottom line is, whatever the decision we make, it's not just about 1 year, and I'm sorry we're doing this and we shouldn't have done it. Because the new members of the board weren't here when we had all this discussion, and that meeting was a long meeting, and there were a lot of things that were said, and there were people who came forth to the podium and talked about it. So it wasn't just making a decision. There was a lot that went into it. And so through the course of the next months, as this pool opens, I would request that if those members here that haven't been or spent a day at Super Splash do that, they talk to their neighbors and say, hey, which parks do you want shut? Because this is the big decision. It's a big decision, not because it's just a park that costs money. It's a big decision deciding what it is that we're going to create a vision to new young families that might want to move to Raytown. That's what the real quest is. So that's why I'm going to vote for it, because I want to see Raytown thrive, and I do support young families because I want them to move to this city.
Ms. Henry, could you please call the roll?
State the motion, because we really need to clarify.
Yep.
There is now.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, for the benefit of the city clerk, can I inquire of Alderman Van Buskirk to make sure we're clear on the intent of his motion? So if we all look at the agenda together at proposed resolution 276715, it would be Ms. Henry and I's understanding, Alderman Van Buskirk, that we look at the second section where you see we're amending the budget, amended as follows, and under the from, excuse me, we'd keep the first entry of parks unappropriated fund balance 80,000, and we would replace the second item you have there, not you have there, I'm sorry, so that the proposed resolution has there, to read that the allocation of funds would be $80,000 from the general fund on an as-needed basis. And that is what we're substituting or amending this resolution to have in that second part. That I interpret it to be your intent, sir.
Be from the city general fund.
So then I think the appropriate thing to do would be to vote on Alderman Van Buskirk's proposed amendment of this resolution, and if that amendment passes, then head second vote on the resolution as amended.
And that's what we're getting ready to do. Yep. Thank you very much. Yep. Please call the roll.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green? Yes. Alderman Teeman?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Abstain.
Alderman Moore? Alderman Black?
Yes.
Alderman Myers?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Abstain.
Now I need a motion on the motion to approve.
All right. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that the resolution as amended, that we pass the resolution as amended, and which would be the, I guess that's correct. Thank you.
Second to Mr. Azier. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Azier? Yes. Alderman Myers?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Abstain.
Alderman Emerson?
Abstain.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Mock.
Yes.
Alderman Black.
Yes.
Alderman Teeman.
Yes.
Passes.
All right. Is R 276815, is that correct? Is that where we're at now?
We're on to number 5.
Okay. Good.
A resolution authorizing and approving change order number 1 to the agreement by and between the City of Raytown and Splashtacular for the water slide maintenance and repair project at Super Splash USA.
Mr. Boji, do you have any additional information?
Good evening, Mayor McDonough and members of the Board of Aldermen. The bid specifications for the water slide bid lists a slide length at 130 feet. The contractor has found that the slides are longer than that, at 185 feet. Change orders for additional labor and materials for the extra 55 feet of slide length on each slide. That's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Ms. Black?
Who measured it?
That's the bid. The slide lengths were pulled from a bid specification that we did a couple of years back.
So when you say we, the city did, the contractor never came out and measured himself?
The contractor is here tonight, and I will let him address that question. Kyle Rieger is here from Splashtacular. If you want to come up or address that question.
I can speak here if you can hear me.
To the podium. To your podium.
Will you give your name and company name?
Sure. My name is Kyle Rieger. I'm a Splashtacular. We were contracted through the city. Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, thank you for having me here this evening. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
First of all, who measured the slide? And then, did you not come out and measure it yourself, or did you just go by the specifications given by the city?
Correct, yeah. We went by the bid specifications given by the city. We did a visual inspection of the slides in the fall. We didn't actually measure the slides at the time, just looked at the work to be performed. So the bid was made per the specifications and the lengths.
Why wouldn't you have measured them?
We had no reason to believe that we were bidding a project where the specifications were incorrect. There were 4 or 5 other companies that bid the job as well, and it was never brought up by those companies either, and we were the low bidder and won the job. But we did measure the slides as we started running out of materials.
Now, typically, it's the responsibility of the contractor to measure, to estimate quantities and materials, lengths, and so forth. The slide length that we put in the bid specs is for reference purposes. It was an old specification from an old bid. 130 feet is what we had. So there was an error.
But it was the same slide? It was just an old specification from an old bid, but still the same slide?
Correct. Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Are there any as-bills, Kevin, at Public Works for Super Splash?
I do have drawings from the manufacturer that were provided.
And this gentleman, you weren't provided a set of as-bills for that slide?
We weren't. We were provided the lengths and the bid specs.
Just for reference specifications,
correct.
right? So it's going to take X amount of materials to spray X amount of square feet.
Correct. Right. Just a comment, when we work on jobs on our own slides. Those slides weren't manufactured by Splashtacular. We do typically check our as-built and confirm the lengths, but we didn't confirm lengths on these slides as we didn't have any drawings to go off of. And when we did visit in the fall, it was raining, lots of leaves and residue. We weren't prepared to actually measure the slides.
Okay, so that was winter when you went out and to bid those. So you didn't pull footage on those at that time, did
Correct.
you?
Correct.
Because you're 110 feet short, and that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's about a third
That's
longer.
huge.
Yeah.
Because you've got the Fury bid, which is a double slide, is 260 feet at 45,000. It's $173 a foot. You want you've got another additional 110 feet. If we base it off of 173, that's another 19,000. So you're cutting your nose off in spite of your face on this $10,000 bill change here.
Correct.
I'm just questioning why the Parks Board wouldn't provide, this is because now, if we go back a few minutes here, for the money that's being allocated for the Parks Board to get this thing finished, why the correct blueprints weren't given to Spectacular in the first place, or now we've got to come up with another 10,000 apparently to finish. But you guys have bid this contract, right? It's a done deal. You've got your total is 188,830 on this contract. Is that right?
88,700. 88,700 plus the 10,500 brings it to 99,200, which is a couple of $1,000 below the next lowest bid.
Well, I'm going to recommend me as I've been in the business for quite a while, all over the place. If you bid a job, you bid a job. You've got to go there and bite the bullet. I just don't. I don't see it. This shouldn't stop us from opening. I wouldn't see. That's all I got to say, really. Thank you.
Mr. Mock. Ms. Emerson.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin, for sending me the bid form today. But on the bid form, it says exactly the footage. I would have thought that you would have said approximate, you must bid the project, you must come and measure it. And granted, you should have done that, but you took what they had told you the footage was. And so I'm going to make a motion that we spend the $10,500 to finish the slide, but I hope that in the future that this does not reoccur. Thank you.
Was that a motion?
Yes, that was a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Azier needed to ask a question. If you could stand by just a second, he'll be right back.
Sure, I was...
Okay, go ahead.
This is more for Kevin than anything. What year was that bid, like, from? Do we have-
The original construction,
The bid that you got, the 130 feet.
2012, 2013, I think it's the year.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it is. Basically what it boils down to, your company should have came out with information that I'm a contractor also. And I'm here for rainy day or not, I'll come back. Okay. Second off, measured by, 55 feet. I'd say split it in half. Cost not to exceed $5,000. Make it as much. And
Can I make a statement? When would that be appropriate?
Hang on just one
Okay.
second. You made a motion for an amendment? Mr. Mock?
We currently have a standing
Yeah, I have standing motion, yeah. Right.
Unless, could Alderman Emerson withdraw her motion? No. I don't, Mr. Joe, sorry. This would be an appropriate time to make an amendment.
Mr. Mock may move to
Absolutely.
amend
All
the
right.
motion if he wishes. She does, but Ms. Emerson does not need to withdraw her underlying motion.
All right, so we need a second to his amendment.
What is the terms of the amendment, Mr. Mock?
Say again.
For the area not to exceed 5,000.
Get everybody here? Do we have a second?
Mike.
No second.
Okay, so amend the motion to for the repair in the amount not to exceed $5,250, $250 instead of $10,500. Is that correct? Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second with Mr. Myers. Any discussion? Ms. Frazier?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask a question to our Public Works Director, Jim Melvin, please, for an interpretation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Melvin, you've had a lifetime career in Public Works, and I know that in Public Works, you deal with about every kind of material the city can see. What happens most frequently, or what would you do most frequently when you have this happen, let's say an overlay or concrete work? I mean, what is standard procedure on how a city would approach this?
When there is an overrun of material, or excuse me, an overrun on quantities, such as we're seeing here, the bid quantity, for instance, is the shorter length of the slide, and you have a physically longer quantity than that on a paving project or anything else in Public Works normally, and you would pay the additional at the price bid per unit. And to make a point on this, that I think the contractor is trying to make as well, if he bid this change order at the per foot price, it would be about 18,000. So he's more or less discounted it for you already back to 10.
Ms. Emerson?
The reason I think we should pay it is because on the bid form, it says the exact amounts. And granted, he probably next time will come measure, but when you're given specifics instead of approximate, I think that he's entitled to the complete amount. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
I just don't see the city using open-ended contracts. I mean, cost overruns, if you're going to bid a job, bid the job and do the job. That's it. It'd be like me going out to your house and saying, well, I only painted 3 sides of your house because I don't have enough money. And that, to me, that's how the city gets gouged. And I'm sure that I'm not saying that you guys are doing that, okay? But apparently a lot of it happens all over the country. In Raytown, I don't appreciate it at all in Raytown. Now, you guys are out of Paola, Kansas?
Yes.
And your main headquarters is out of New York City.
No.
Your LLC. There's 7 splash-taculars that do water slide repair. I did some research on your company, okay? At least what I could dig up. And there wasn't much. A lot of it was blanked out for some reason. And I'm not saying that you guys do bad work. I've never seen your work. But you guys actually build your own stuff, right?
Correct, yeah.
So you guys are professionals in your field.
Correct.
Then that job should be done professionally, on time, within that budget that you put down on that paper, on that contract, on your original amount. Because it'd be the same as me or Mr. Mock or anybody else. You know, I'm not gonna go there and try to stretch that carpet 14 feet when there isn't 14 feet of carpet to stretch. I completely don't agree with anything coming in through the back door like this. You know, and and I'm not gonna hold the city liable for not having a set of as-bills for that place. You should have got the as-bills. Went to that man's office right there. I'm sure he's got a room that's filled with as-bills from everything that's happened in this town. That's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Myers.
If I asked Mr. Mock to build me a house, and he uses the blueprints that the architect drew up, bid sheet, whatever form you want to use as utilization, then somehow along the process, at the end of the build, he comes up and says, skipped a step, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that, and drops me a bid for $10,500. Steve knows me pretty well. That's probably not going to happen. I see a very similar environment in your process. I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I'm looking at a bill for $10,500 and says you didn't do it very well. Didn't complete the whole process. We may have evaluated the bids differently based upon the number that you presented to us. I wasn't here, I don't know. But I think the fact that we're offering half of that bill is probably showing some pretty good faith on our part. Not so sure Mr. Moore would agree with that statement, but I'm going to stick with it. So that's my feelings on the subject. Thank you.
Mr. Josh Green.
Thank you. I was actually wondering, Miss Emerson, since you have the exact bid, I was wondering if I could actually see that, because I do not have that in here. I was just,
I asked him to send it to me
I
today.
appreciate that.
I have copies for all the board members if you'd like one
All right.
of the bid.
All right, sorry, give me 2 seconds here. All right, that was just for my personal well-being there. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Josh Green.
I was just going to say, I think there's still a standing motion, and once everybody's kind of done looking at this, because I think this may play a role in some people's decisions, unless anybody else has anything to say, I think we should vote on the motion. The motion to amend, as that was placed after the motion to approve.
All right. Would you please call the roll on the amendment?
On the motion to amend, Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Myers,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
No.
Alderman Moore,
No.
Alderman Black,
No.
Alderman Jason Green,
No.
Alderman Josh Green,
No.
Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
No.
Alderman Teeman,
No.
motion fails. Should stop.
Now we're voting on the original.
On the motion to adopt. Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Moore, Alderman Black,
No.
Alderman Myers,
No.
Alderman Jason Green,
No.
Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Azier, Alderman Teeman,
No.
Alderman Mock,
No.
motion fails.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I-
Senator, are you ready for the other?
Sure am.
Okay. Go ahead.
On just a second. A resolution amending the fiscal year 2014-2015 budget related to capital expenditures.
Mr. Melvin, do you have any additional information to add?
I believe the information stands. If you have any questions, I'd certainly be glad to answer those.
Ms. Emerson?
Thank you. As this was already approved in the prior year, I make a motion that we approve the money to do the carpeting.
I'd like to second that motion.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Myers,
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green, Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Moore, Alderman Azier, Alderman Mock, Alderman Black,
Yes.
Alderman Teeman,
Yes.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
first.
Second on Mr. Teeman. Who was the first?
It was the first.
I don't know. Who was the first? You said second, but who was the first? I didn't.
Okay, good.
You said so moved. Okay.
Josh Green.
Mr. Green and Mr. Teeman. All in favor, say aye.
I thought I had a good 20 seconds before I could leave.